The issue of whether MMA, boxing, grappling, UFC is halal, haram, a lot of people are confused about this. So I thought I'd discuss this issue with proper details. Because some people kind of support it no matter what, even though realizing that the UFC or boxing professionally involves gambling, involves women indecently dressed during the fights, mixing of men and women, and a lot of other harms. So to unrestrictedly allow that is not permissible in Islam. On the other hand, some of the people have started to say things like, even in a fight where a criminal is about to attack your wife and child, you cannot hit them on the face. Are you serious? Like a Muslim in a jihad or qital cannot hit the enemy on the face even while fighting in jihad. Where did this come from? I mean, just think through this. You want me to tell my brothers and sisters in Gaza, in Kashmir, in parts of the world where the zalim, dhullam, oppressive IDF soldiers are breaking into their house and killing their children, go for body shots. like seriously, there's no way. Like if somebody comes and attacks my wife and my daughter, I'm going to defend myself in any way to stop that oppressor from harming the innocent. Now to say that the Prophet ﷺ forbid hitting on the face and to include that under this is wrong. The hadith that is mentioned in Bukhari and Muslim, إِذَا قَاتَلَ أَحَدَكُمْ, if one of you gets into an altercation, don't hit the face. But the wording of the hadith, if you look at the full version, and it's in Bukhari and Muslim, it mentions إِذَا قَاتَلَ أَحَدَكُمْ أَخَاهُ, if one of you gets into an altercation with your brother, meaning your Muslim brother, somebody loses their temper or so on, as Ibn Hajar Asqalani says, this has to do with the hudud, when the punishments are carried out, you don't hit the face. Ta'ziran, if a judge is putting a penalty on somebody, you don't hit the face because Allah honored the face. And he says, if this is for teaching a lesson. For example, the Prophet ﷺ said, from the rights of a wife is the husband does not hit her on the face. That makes sense. If somebody is disciplining somebody, you don't hit on the face. Even if you lose your temper, and I know it's difficult to control your temper, we do not hit on the face. But does that include if somebody is attacking your family, if you're in a battle? It does not. And the evidence for that, Mullah Liqari, the great Hanafi scholar, says clearly in the explanation of this hadith that this does not include the kafir in a state of battle. In fact, if you look in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, hit them above the necks. What is above the neck? Ibn Abbas and other Sahaba, they explain, and this is a beautiful tafsir al-Ma'thur, which collects all the athar. He says that this is about the kafir and the battle of Badr. Muhammad ibn Yazid, for example, he says this shows the permissibility of hitting on the faces during battles. And in the next few ayat, you see again that the malaika, the angels in Badr were hitting them on their faces. It's very clear from the Quran. In Badr, in fact, Ibn Abbas, Mujahid, Dahaq, I've put the quotes on your screen. You can see they clearly said that this has to do with the battle of Badr and the malaika that were fighting in battle of Badr. Allah ordered them, and that's what they did. They hit the kuffar on their faces. This is not about the hereafter. This is about Badr, the battle on earth in jihad. So if it was forbidden to hit on the face, how would the malaika be ordered by Allah in Badr and praised in the Quran to hit on the face? In fact, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in the hadith that is mentioned in Sahih Muslim, he took dirt and he threw it at the faces of the kuffar and it hit them in their eyes. This hadith is authentic. He hit them on their faces. In fact, in the battle of Badr, Zubayr ibn Awam, the Sahabi, when we look at the Quran, we look at the Sahih Hadith, we look at the amal, the actions of the Salaf al-Salihin, that's how we get our religion. Zubayr ibn Awam, in the battle of Badr, he saw that the Qurayshi mushrik armored up, fully armored, head to toe, and he saw there was an opening at the eye, so he took his spear and hit him in the face. He didn't say, oh no, it's haram to hit on the face. No, it's a battle. You're defending yourselves here. And this hadith is reported in Sahih al-Bukhari. These are authentic narrations. In fact, Ibn Hammam, the great Hanafi scholar, in his Fath al-Qadir, and others have mentioned that it is permissible to hit the face when there is a necessity, for example, in a battle or defending yourselves and so on. Muwaffaquddin ibn Qudama, the great Hanbali scholar in Al-Mughni, says, if somebody breaks into your house and they are harming you, then you have to repel them with whatever you can. You start with the least amount of force, but you rank it up to whatever is needed to defend yourself. And if you die in that state, you die as a shaheed, defending your honor, defending your family, defending your mal. He doesn't say you cannot hit them on the face. No. Even if you look at the earlier prophets, Musa alayhi when Malak al-Maut, in the famous hadith, in the Sahih Imam Muslim, when he came to him, Musa alayhi didn't recognize who it is, so to repel him, he hit him on the face. Musa alayhi the Prophet of Allah, you think he didn't understand the ahkam? To defend the innocent, to defend your family, to defend your honor, to defend your wealth, to defend the Muslim lands or the innocent people around the world in Gaza and Kashmir and so on, there is nothing wrong with hitting on the face from the Quran, from Sahih Ahadith, from the Salaf al-Salihin, and from the Madahib al-Arba'. You can look at the evidences across the board. In fact, you would be hard pressed to find a single scholar that said that in the case of jihad and qital, from the scholars of the past, I mean, you cannot hit on the face. And even if you do, it would be against the clear evidences from the Quran, the authentic Ahadith, and the Salaf al-Salihin. Now, a different issue is, can you participate in organized boxing sports where there is gambling, where there's other aspects of haram? No, that is haram. But to learn how to fight, whether it's UFC, whether it's grappling, whether it's MMA, whether it's boxing, whether it's ninjutsu or whatever else may be out there, karate, kung fu, whatever is effective in defending yourself, you should learn. There is no doubt to that. And as a Muslim man, you should be ready to defend yourself and the innocent people around the world and your families. And if you don't learn, how will you be able to? In fact, when you are training, you can use a dummy. You don't have to hit a person on the face. There are those boxing, punching bags that look like humans, so you can learn the skills. And if you need to spar, if you put proper headgear, you can spar. Why? Because the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that forbid us from pointing a weapon at a believer. And no doubt, you should never point a weapon at a believer. But the Sahaba, when they taught each other how to sword fight, when they were teaching them the skills, they weren't teaching them with imaginary sticks. They taught them with weapons. Why? Because that is training to defend. So in that case, you can. But you stay away from hitting in the face as much as you can. And you try to use things like punching bags and so on. Having said all of this, I do want to mention one last thing. It is very important for our young men to be strong spiritually in their iman and physically. Because when the situation arises, if you don't know how to defend yourself and you don't know how to defend your family, you will not be able to fulfill the Islamic obligation of defending the ummah and defending your family. So to train, to learn, nothing wrong with that, but stay away from things that have aspects of haram, whether it's gambling or game fixing or fight fixing and women and men mixing and music. Those things we will never compromise on. But to learn and to be strong and to defend yourself,